Well, hello everybody. After a much long absence from my previous uh, Draft Day Sports College Football 26 UAB initial season, kind of coming back to kind of pick this back up and try and get into the season two, which I had really kind of hoped that I'd been several seasons into this thing by this point, but sometimes life gets in the way and had things come up and was working on other stuff and just really kind of got sidebarred and sidetracked with several other things kind of going on. But kind of wanted to jump back in and kind of just take a quick look basically at season's end and where we kind of ended up. I think ultimately you probably see some of the same things from the last episode that I had from the previous season, but going back through, just kind of looking real quick. So I ended up just kind of going back over and looking back at our league and how I've set this up. So this is, again, a 132 team league. I have 11 conferences with 12 teams in each conference, basically split into two divisions. Each conference plays for a conference championship, and the winner of that conference championship gets an automatic bid to the playoff. And it's a 16 team playoff, so there's 5 at-larges that get put in with a pool of the 11 conference winners. And kind of going back through, I went old school on a lot of these because I've moved some to get teams into the 11 conferences evenly. I had to kind of eliminate the independents and move some teams out and around and kind of reconstructed and recreated some of the older conferences and et cetera. With that, I think there was a couple teams in the ACC here that moved out. For example, Maryland came out of the Big Ten and back into here. I pulled Syracuse out and Pitt out and Louisville out to reconstruct the Big East. So the conferences we have is the ACC, American, Big East, Big Ten, Big 12, Conference USA, Mid-American, the Mountain West, Pac-12, old Pac-12, reconstructed that back to that as well, SEC and the Sun Belt. And going back through the American, for the most part, I think that's kind of made up, I think with a lot of current teams, but I think some of them have moved around as well, because the Conference USA, which I'm in, I reconstructed that back to more of the old school Conference USA from back around the early 2000s, I guess, when UAB rival was kind of Memphis, and we had SMU and Central Florida and some of these other teams, the East Carolina, that kind of made up that conference. And with the Big 12, I had to move, pretty much with the SEC the way it is now, it's so much bigger, but the old SEC, I even moved Texas A&M and Missouri out to get them back. Nebraska came out of the Big 10, and to move Texas, and of course reconstructed this back more towards what the old Big 12 was. And with the Big 10, of course, having to drop a lot of teams down just to be able to get to 12, I had to move a lot of those around. And because Notre Dame's in the backyard, pretty much in that geographic vicinity, I ended up adding them into the Big Ten. The MAC is pretty much untouched and the kind of the way it is, and as well as the Mountain West Conference. The Pac-12, again, just the old school Pac-12. And SEC is basically the SEC today, less A&M and Missouri that moved back to the 12, and of course, Texas and Oklahoma as well. And then your Sun Belt kind of makes up the final conference that's in this. So with that said, so basically I ended up on the season, I was 4-8, 3-6 in conference, 4-2 at home, 0-6 on the road. All things considering, being kind of on a non-power conference and actually being kind of really the low end of the conference there, I think I was projected to be like maybe finishing 10th out of 12 teams before the season started. I did actually have a really what I would consider a pretty good recruiting class. I think I ended up 39th overall in the country for a non-power mid-prestige school that went 4-8 and didn't really even compete well, even in my own conference. I think my recruiting class that pulled in did really well. And the interesting thing about a lot of these guys that's going to be going into the next season, which I'm moving over into the new Draft Day Sports College Football 27. Out of these 25 guys I think that I have, I've got probably 20 that's going to be playing pretty significantly. I think probably 12 of them very significantly with a lot of playing time, and as many as 8 starters, because most of these guys were better than anything that I had really on the field. The interesting thing too is, for example, I got a running back as this Kenton Saunders, who is like 957, 3-star. My Keaton Bedford guy that ran for, I think, 1,300 yards last year, 1,221 yards, see over here, he's rated considerably higher than Keaton Bedford, so it's going to be interesting to kind of see what I'm going to be able to pull around, and then having this 4-star quarterback come in as possibly a starter or a lot of playing time. I really struggled in the passing game last year, very poorly. I think I finished 126 out of 132 teams offensively passing. I was 4th rushing, which makes sense. I was strong against the pass and weak against the run. So it's kind of, my defense kind of mirrored what my offense wasn't able to do. Well, that said, so ultimately, just kind of going back through and looking at some of these games and where we ended up just on the playoffs. Of course, I didn't make a bowl game, and the bracket that we had for the championship, your conference winners, and then your 5 at-larges that kind of came in and pulled your Final Four was basically Clemson, Washington, Oklahoma State, and Georgia. And Georgia ended up defeating Clemson 41-24. Georgia went in as the number 1 overall seed and was able to pull it out. Clemson made the championship game as the 8 seed. Alabama ended up getting knocked off by Georgia as a 2 seed, and then Oregon as the 3 seed got knocked off by Washington, who lost to Clemson in that semifinal. See, going back to, I guess, some of the not the magazines, but let's see some of the media, looking at the awards and kind of what happened. I guess what the version of the Heisman, I assume that does not seem to be, that's not how, I'm not sure what's going on there, but that's not really how I thought that ended. But anyway, going back to my team as far as where we are now, with the recruits coming in, where we kind of ended up on the season for where we were. We moved into the next year, and the difference between version 26 and version 27, I do like how Brooks did version 27 now. This version, when a season ended, you started the season beginning, it went into staff signing, 5 phases of staff signing, then you went into your final 3 recruiting and signing day, then hit your spring game, and then to your training camp. I like how Brooks has kind of changed that up a little bit now, and what he's done on this year's version is when your season ends, you begin the season, you still go through your 5 staff signing phases, Then you hit your spring game. Then you finalize your recruiting periods with your signing period kind of coming after that, and then going into training camp into the regular season. So based on that, though, with that said, you can't really end the season with what I had, because I had moved into the next season and had already gone through the staff signing and the recruiting area and got it to the spring game in hopes that I would be able to move it over into the spring game of the new version. I couldn't do that. I had to finish the spring version of this previous year to get it up to the August 1 training camp before I could actually get it to an import. Otherwise, it would have been mismatching on recruiting, where recruiting had finalized in 26. There would have been additional recruiting periods that would have come up. And I think in the beta, I don't know if it was beta, but I think in the early access, you was able to do that. But I do know, because I think Brooks actually, on the release of the version now, it gives you an error if you're not starting at the right point of a season now. I think his version, when you try and move it across, it says you need to be at the beginning of the season. I was able to get it to do that just by matching up the time frames, August 1 training camp to August 1 training camp. And so I was able to get this season moved over into it. And I did run some tests to make sure that everything was kind of running cleanly through that, and there wasn't really any anomalies or anything that kind of happened. So I just ran a couple real quick season through it and made sure and kind of have it to the point now that where I'm actually going to be able to take over and come into this season kind of with where I am. And in the new version 26 or version 27, this whole facilities addition that's kind of there, I really like this a lot too. Adds a little bit more to it, and as you can see, some of the things that can affect you and help you in some other areas, which already right now, I have a $19 million budget, and I had about a little over $7 million remaining, which I don't think that I was going to spend that much in the recruiting side of it. I'm just going to have to watch that really close. But I went ahead and took about $1.5 million to try and upgrade my recruiting center and my training center, which hopefully will help me in some training games and through the season, and then also help maybe a little boost in my recruiting as well. So with that said, I think having both of those kind of come in, because they were kind of down around 79-80%. Everything else I'm 90%, 87% on stadium academic, and 90% on staff support. I'm not too worried about those until they start dipping a little bit lower. And then the next year maybe I'll look at trying to do the medical facilities. It's down around 78% just to kind of boost it up, and hopefully I won't have too many injuries this year, but maybe that'll help me for injury prevention and etc. Going into season 3 for that. Kind of going back now and looking back at the dashboard or going to the roster and kind of looking at some of the players that I have. So again, you can kind of look at freshman quarterback coming in. Best I had at anything was the guys that played the most for me last year was Arlen and Ferguson at quarterback. So Penn's intelligence is above that. He's way better arm, much better arm. Right there with the accuracy. He's not a running quarterback, which is fine. Now his skill level is a little below Arlen's, but it matches what Ferguson's was. And actually, honestly, Ferguson played better than Arlen did last year. I think Arlen got hurt early, first or second game of the season for me, and was really hoping he would be able to run a lot and be a good dual threat. And just after that, he just never really did too much. Again, Ferguson was really my best guy, so I'm looking at Penn probably being able to step in and really take over that piece of it there. And then as far as running backs, again, Bedford was my guy. I mean, he 1,200 yards on the ground, ran really well. But looking at Saunders coming in as a freshman, pretty much, I mean, speed is just, you know, crazy good. And then, of course, didn't really recruit any fullbacks. I've got to do that pretty heavy this year. Both of these seniors are leaving, but the Lemansky Ware was my wild card last year, and I really look to probably try and utilize him a lot the same way this year. See how that kind of works out. Lost 2 tight ends, had 2 tight ends come in. I was really going after a Hail Mary on a tight end last year, and I didn't get them, and it had affected some of the recruiting I had on some of the other tight ends, and I got really late in the game, and I still didn't have any tight ends committing, and I don't think I got these guys until right at the end of the season, and it was like pulling teeth just to try and get a tight end to come in. But I think Mintzer's probably going to be my guy, but I've got the freshmen Gabriel and Milner. Both are going to be able to probably come in and help some. I know Gabriel's got as good a hands as Mintzer, so in a 2 tight end set, it's probably going to be Mintzer and Gabriel. And then receivers, that was an area that I did lose a few receivers there. I did get this Hayward as a transfer, and then I only got 2, which is Camp and Motley, and both of them are really 2 of my highest rated guys now. Motley with the best speed at 91, and then Camp's got, you know, the best hands at 82. So it's another couple freshmen that's just going to be playing, you know, pretty heavily as well. And offensive line, same things kind of happened here. I've got a couple of freshmen coming in that one of them's probably going to be starting. And then my best tackle is another freshman going to be starting. And then it's going to be a toss-up between Olsen and Judith. Olsen's, you know, both of them, their skills are fine, and Judith's at 87 is good as well. He's just a monster, 6'7", 308 pounds, freshman coming in. Be interesting to see kind of what happens there. Punters, didn't do anything on punters, but I did get a new kicker. I had one graduate, and I've got Hibbard coming in, and he's probably going to take over the duties, even over Ragland. I think even from a kickoff distance and field goal distance, it's going to be Hibbard both ways. And accuracy, they're both basically the same on accuracy. Defensive tackle, again, top 2 guys that are there basically are 2 freshmen coming in. Defensive ends on the edge, same thing. Really kind of expecting a lot out of this Oliver and really Cooper, both of them. Linebackers is where I'm going to be really, really hurting a little bit. So I had a couple linebackers come in. This guy didn't turn out to be quite what I thought he would, but Ralston's going to be good with him, and Mingo's a transfer, so he's a sophomore transfer that I had come in. I've got Ralston as a freshman. These 2 guys got a lot of playing time last year. Hannaford did as well. But I've got these guys on the low end here. What I'm going to be losing is going to be 3 guys, and then what I have on the bottom outside of that, there's going to be 3 more. So ultimately, I know I've got to replace 3 linebackers in a recruiting class, but I'm really going to be looking for more than that, because these bottom 3, particularly probably Hurst as a junior, and then this Webster, maybe even cutting them and trying to fully replenish my linebacker room through the transfer and recruiting this year. And then on the corners, again, top 2 corners, both freshmen coming in. So it's going to be interesting to play this many freshmen, because I really don't expect them to be able to come in and play heads above kind of what I did last year. But part of me sits there and looks at it and thinks that, you know, good grief, it's a lot more talent Some of their skill levels aren't quite as good. So, basically looking here at the strong safety, you've got McCray and Williams. Williams looks pretty good. He's kind of above where I stand with the other two guys backup, but he's the least skilled. And so that's going to be a factor in a lot of ways as well. Same thing here on the free safety. So you got Beeman and Crosby both. They're both very, very comparable. Crosby's a little more intelligent, but definitely way more skilled. So he'll be getting the playing time there. Our schedule this year, coming into our schedule, we're going to be going up against Troy. Now I'm kind of excited about this matchup because we played at Troy last year. That was the game that we got destroyed on, that their quarterback just ran for like 190 yards on 180 yards on us, and we had no answer. I want some redemption and rematch there, but that's going to be our opening game, and it's going to be a home game for us. And then we go on the road at Baylor, 16th ranked Baylor, which is kind of comparable to what we had last year. So I think our first game of the season last year was at Tennessee, and I think at the time they were probably ranked somewhere around that 16 mark as well. And we actually played well against them up until about halfway through the fourth quarter, and then the wheels kind of came off a little bit, but all in all, it wasn't bad. And then coming out of that Baylor game, we're going to have a bye week, so that's going to probably be good. But then we go into our conference play. And in our conference play, our first two are going to be on the road at Middle Tennessee and at Rice. We did not have Rice last year, so we've picked them up out of the other side of the conference. And then we have a home game against South Alabama. And that's another out-of-conference game, followed up by a conference game against Houston. And I think the only three games that we won last year in conference was East Carolina. Let me think. East Carolina, Middle Tennessee, and I think it might have been one that dropped off because I think the two new teams coming in that we in our conference that we didn't play last year out of the other side is Rice and Southern Mississippi. Then we close out at home against Memphis, which basically is kind of our rival. They pretty handily beat us last year, so that'll be something to kind of look forward to as well. Going through the depth chart, and again looking kind of back through these, as far as my run package goes, I've got Penn and Saunders in there, freshman, Camp and Motley, freshman, Gabriel, freshman, Wright, freshman, Stamps, freshman, Judith, freshman. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 freshman starters on the run package. Crazy, insane. I'm going to go back through and adjust some of this because I don't think this is not set right. I don't completely have this set right going into Baylor because for some reason I don't have Bedford in here, and I need Bedford definitely up before I have Dykes there as well, even on the pass package. And then looking, kind of going on the defense, same thing, just kind of looking at the run package. So I've got Sheridan's freshman, Lucero's a freshman, Cooper's a freshman. So I've got three front linemen that are freshmen. Mingo's a sophomore transfer. Ralston's a freshman. And then I got Sanford's a freshman. Both corners are going to be freshmen. I've got them starting. So it's going to be very, very interesting. I guess the good thing is we're kind of opening up with Troy and not Baylor to maybe test some of these freshmen out. And I may end up having to move some of these guys around, but I've just got to go back through and really go back through this depth chart, going back into this Troy game, looking at the skill positions and kind of where we stand with some of that to make sure that some of this is set right before we kind of progress on it. But again, so I'm going to make this one probably a fairly short episode. Then I'm going to jump right into the season. The next episode will basically be covering our first week of the recruiting, and then the game recap on Troy, and maybe the preview kind of coming up on Baylor. I'm going to keep these a little shorter. I think last season, the first season episode I had, I didn't really have any of these. It was really much under, or really any of them, kind of under an hour. Trying to target more to maybe a 30-minute recap, and probably not going to be doing any actual gameplay or anything like that. I'll probably just be recapping the game after I kind of play them out. Really curious to kind of see how some of 27 actually works. And going back through we'll close out on the recruiting side of it. So one thing I've done is we have our full list of recruits here. This is all 3,960 of them. I've went through and scoured my targets, and what I've kind of got on my targets and what I'm looking at is same thing that I did last year. I've just gone through and kind of figured I've got 20 scholarships to go to get, and last year I kind of built my initial list on 100 targets, and I kind of did the same thing based off of what I'm losing, and then what I'm going to target. The heavy areas that I'm losing is going to be defensive tackle and linebacker. I'm losing 3 and 3 there, so I've basically built my initial target list out with 15 linebackers and 10 defensive tackles, and so I've kind of gone through and have this list built out, and based on that, this is my target list. So again, I've got a lot of these kind of really, especially these up to 396. I'm not sure what to expect out of those. Whether I'm going to be able to get. I know Penn last year was like a 4-star, around the 300 recruit range. I was able to get him, and he wasn't even local. He was out of New York. I was able to pull him in. So I'm hoping I can get 1 or 2 more of these, particularly in some of these areas that I really, really need, like defensive tackle and linebacker. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've just went ahead and set my initial actions for this first week. And on all 100, I'm actually interviewing all 100 of them. And I'm at least going to home visit or phone call. I think I'm phone calling 85 and home visiting 15, but I'm actually going to reach out for that secondary contact on every one of these. I have gone through, and again, like I did last year, I really don't like throwing the scholarships out there before you really have any kind of information on anybody. But again, like last year, I got those 25 recruits, and there's probably 15 of them are better than any other player I have on the team at those positions. So in these areas of high need, like defensive tackle and just guys that really just look really, really good to me, linebacker, defensive tackle, this receiver looks really, really good. I'm throwing a scholarship offer out there just on these, and basically they're all anywhere from a 200 up to a 800 ranking, and I just fully expect them to be better than anything I have. So, whatever information kind of comes back, I think it's something that I'll just try and work with. If anything's just really, really, just really screwy, I can always revoke it and pull it back, which I really don't want to do. But I did this last year, and it worked out pretty well, because I think I ended up getting I think initially when I did this last year, I think I might have even sent out more scholarships. I think I did like 12. And I know 4 or 5 of those guys are guys I ended up getting. Particularly, so I'm looking at this one guy here, this Michael Ruggs, and just based off of what I could see, hands are so good you would not believe it. Snatches the ball out of the air right in front of defenders. Nice speed, will keep the defense honest, and he's 6'6". So I'm gonna basically take my chance on him and just he's from Tennessee. And try and jump on him as best I can. So don't really have a ton of interest out of a lot of these that I've kind of put on the board. However, I do have some, and like for example, this cornerback, he's a 490, and he's warm. He's probably the hottest one that I've got on my board right now. That as far as what he feels, it doesn't really mean anything. Chances are I possibly could lose him. I don't know, but he's local. He's a lead, so he's really in the Birmingham. He's less 50 miles from school, so chances are maybe he's a close to home kid or something that kind of wants to play. So, but he looks like a very, very solid pickup if I can get him, and I do need a corner. So he's kind of there, and and I've got some miles and some cools, but we'll kind of see how those kind of progress. But that's kind of where I am on the recruiting side of it. I've got a couple more quarterbacks out there. I really don't need them, but there are a couple of them that show some mild interest in both of these guys. I think one's from Hoover and one's from Mount Brooks. Both of those are like Birmingham guys again, so that's probably just a distance thing. I don't know that I really have a shot at getting either one of those. Not necessarily really needed this year, but I think if something happened and I could probably pick up one of them, I probably would end up maybe getting rid of one of the ones I have. I mean, Farrell's leaving. I mean, I'm already one quarterback really heavy. Don't really need more than 4, but because I got Penn and nobody transferred out, I'm kind of there. So Farrell leaves, he puts me back to 4. But we'll kind of see where we go from there. But I'd pick up another one if I could get one of those for sure. But anyway, that's kind of where we are. So I think again, next episode we'll cover that first week of recruiting, cover this Troy game, and get ready to play it out and kind of see how my season starts out, and we'll dive in and take a look at and see how some of these rookies panned out for me. And I'm just going to have to kind of adjust my game plan and playbooks and things to kind of match some of the things that are going to be changing for me, particularly with Penn. So I think ultimately I'm going to have definitely it's not going to be a knock your socks off passing game, but it's going to be much better than what I had last year, because it was just really non-existent. I was so one-dimensional. Teams knew they could run on me and run it down my throat, and then also they knew the only thing I could do was run. However, I did run successfully, but it just wasn't enough to kind of close out some of the games that when it came down to it, and I had to pass and do some things to try and pull one or two of those games out that kept me, ended up 4-8, and I probably had 2 games that, with a little bit better passing attack, I felt like last year I could have and should have at least went 6-6 and got a bowl game somewhere. But because of the sheer lack of passing and being able to get the ball downfield in any kind of way, really hurt me, and definitely in a couple of those games. But that's what we'll do on this one. I'll end it here. And basically, I'm probably going to start this one as my DDSCF27 Season 2, UAB's continued journey. And this will be episode 0, basically. It's just kind of a rehash of last year and kind of stepping into a preview of what we look to do. And I guess, so right now, leaving on the note of just kind of looking at the existing top 25. Georgia won it all last year. They're coming in preseason ranked number 3, but they've got the Florida State Seminoles as number 1 and Penn State number 2. Going down the list, it's not really anything out of, let's see, going through this, there's not any teams on this list that are not Power 4 conferences. Or Power 5, I guess. Pac-12 is built back the way it is, so I guess it's truly out of these 11 conferences I have the 5 power conferences, and all 25 teams are made up of teams that are in that. That's not to say that that's how it's going to stay, because I fully expect someone like a Louisville in the Big East maybe a Brigham Young in the Mountain West that kind of step up and are able to really power through their conferences and definitely end up in the playoff and well into the top 25 by season's end. I think that happened last year too. But that said, we'll close this one out, and we will see you on the next one. Hopefully I'll have the Troy game played and post up another one here soon.